So I just did the keto diet, lost about 10 pounds, and naturally went to go get some Taco Bell to grab some food before my nurse shift. I'm standing in line and I notice these older guys that are sitting near the exit and they won't stop looking at me. So I called my best friend just to look busy and get her to talk to me through the anxiety. I order my food, get it, and start to leave. I'm walking out the door when one of the men then gets up and starts touching on my arm. He says,
"You're really beautiful."
So I said thanks and then went to my car and left, all while still being on the phone with my friend. I finally hung up with her and headed to work. On my way to work, I realized that I needed to run to Walmart really quick to go pick something up, so I stop at the Walmart that's on the way there. I go to the aisle that I know I need to look at, and while browsing, I look up and I see that it's the dude from Taco Bell walking towards me. I immediately call my friend back so that she can be a witness to whatever I was about to experience. I walk past the guy hastily and then he says,
Well, what a coincidence running into you here."
And then I whipped around, looking straight at the guy with my phone. Then my friend took a screenshot of what he looked like. I forgot to mention that we were actually FaceTiming. Then the guy said,
"Now, what did you have to do that for?"
Like I literally ran for my life from this guy. There was a cop standing at the entrance and I grabbed him. He pulled me into an office and I told him what was going on, and then I showed him the picture that my friend took. He escorted me out to my car and had another cop follow me to work. I ended up sending the picture to the TBI so that maybe they can identify him involved in a trafficking ring or something. I think I forgot to say that when he was standing in the aisle with me, the man that he was with at Taco Bell was standing at the very other end of the aisle. I assumed the other one was in whatever car they were driving. Natalie Holloway was actually my neighbor growing up, and she actually babysat me a few times. I feel like sometimes remembering that is what really helps me to be extra aware of my surroundings. And you should too. This happened just yesterday. My friend Anna and I were on the bus after running some errands. She wasn't really feeling well, so we ended up getting off the bus about 20 minutes before our stop so that she could use the restroom in a Taco Bell. She hands me the bag she's carrying, and while doing so, a guy comes in and then says,
"Hey, how you doing?"
She politely replied with a hello before going inside the restroom. I'm waiting with the bag, scrolling through my phone, when I then feel eyes in my direction. The guy is sitting across the restaurant just staring at the bathroom door. I decide to go in to check on Anna, and I talk to her outside of the women's bathroom. She says that she's okay, so I go back out and sit at one of the tables. And he's still staring. He hasn't ordered anything at all, not even a drink. She's still in there when he then gets up and goes through the door for the restrooms. I immediately text her, telling her not to come out, explaining that this weird guy has been staring and waiting. Anna then tells me that she didn't hear the men's door open or close at all. I immediately go up front and I decide to tell one of the workers, "Hey, the women's bathroom is clogged," while lowering my voice and then saying, "So a guy's been following me and my friend. She's trapped in the bathroom." All the worker said was okay. The guy finally comes out and sits where he was before. I then text Anna saying that it's safe and blockade the bathroom door so that he can't see her coming out. This probably would have worked if Anna wasn't taller and curvier than me. It wasn't even 30 seconds later when the guy then followed us out. He's trying to talk to Anna, who just keeps saying no. We go to some construction workers who are working on a pizza restaurant. I inform one of them really quickly on what's going on, and he stands there with us. The guy finally stops following us, and then he walks away. I didn't notice the police by the apartments next to it. I just needed to get somebody's attention before it turned dangerous. The other construction worker went to inform the police about it, who then went to patrol a little bit. The first worker that we talked to actually stayed with us while we waited for the bus, and he told us to be safe. We eventually made it home without another incident, but I don't think we'll ever stop at that location ever again. When I had just moved to the city that I currently live in, I decided to go to Burger King all on my own for dinner. I sat down at a table with my food, happy to have moved, when this weird homeless guy then comes inside and sits at my table. Now, this was a train station Burger King, so it was pretty small and not really strange that people would join you at your table, as there was not a lot of room to sit at. I noticed that he looked very dirty and worn out, but I tried not to be bothered by it and figured he just needs to eat too. After getting one of the cheapest burgers on the menu and then finishing it in 1 minute, he then takes out a really small piece of paper and a pen. He then starts writing with a very concentrated face while I'm still finishing my menu. I can't really tell what he's writing, but he looks at it with a content face and then looks at me. I just look away and focus on my food. The guy then takes this piece of paper below the table and his arm is jerking. He then stares off into the distance again, totally glaze-eyed. He puts his arm back on that table and looks at that piece of paper again. I can't really take my eyes off what the hell's happening, just trying to figure out what the hell he's doing. Once again, he reaches below the table with the piece of paper, and this time I can see him pulling at the front of his pants and reaching with the paper in his crotch. He then starts rubbing that same piece of paper there intensely with a very content look on his face, and then pulling it out yet again. The piece of paper now all wet and sticky. I then got up and left, totally flabbergasted at what the hell just happened. It was really gross. What a disgusting, creepy guy. I'd say that I was about 13 years old when this happened. At the time, I lived in a really small town, and this girl a few years younger than me had just gone missing. It had been a really big deal. They found her dead, and well, she had apparently been tortured right before her death. Obviously, it made parents be really paranoid about who they let around their children. So back to my experience. My mom took me to Burger King, and we usually only went there the days that she was too tired from working to cook. She went to get the food, and I sat at a booth playing with the paper for my straw, and this man came in and then came up to me. It was like he came into the building and looked around until he then spotted me, then came over to where I was sitting. The guy, I don't think he was homeless, but maybe he was. But he had this really odd smell to him, and his clothes were all ripped and dirty. He kept his hands stuffed in his jean pockets and kept moving them around and swaying back and forth, all while standing and looking down at me, and then he kept doing this really creepy smile. I sort of just smiled and said hi, figuring that he couldn't really do anything because it was a really small building that was full of employees, and I mean, my mom was literally just a few feet away from us. He then started talking to me. I remember that he had this kind of voice that just really made you feel gross. This guy was literally just standing there staring at me and then talking about the girl who just went missing and was found dead. It wasn't like a casual topic. He had like this really crazy look in his eyes as if it was exciting to him what had happened to that girl, and he seemed to be really enjoying talking about it. He started the conversation on how he heard what happened to that girl was all about sex. Which, when you're very young and some creepy man who hasn't bathed in probably weeks is saying things about sex to you, it was just so freaky. Like the entire situation of this was just totally screwed. I was just so creeped out by this guy, and he was now standing very close to me. Like he was literally blocking my side of the booth. It was like he knew that if he didn't just keep standing there blocking my way, that I would eventually get up and leave. Thankfully, before he could tell me any more about sex, or at this point ask me if I had sex before, which is where he was starting to go with it, my mom noticed him and came right over, asking him what the hell he wanted and why he was talking to me. He got really wide-eyed, jumped away, and then left. A couple of employees ran out after him to see who he was and what he looked like, because they were caught between wanting to call the cops and making sure to never let him into the building again. I remember being shaken up really badly over it. My mom was also really freaked out. She had planned on buying me mace and all sorts of things after that incident. The thing is, after that all happened, I was really paranoid that I'd somehow run into him again. In a small town like mine, that kind of thing happens pretty often. Like a few times, I could have sworn that I saw him riding a bike when I'd be in the car with my mom. And I think on another time I actually saw him in a shop we were in. Of course, I was really young and he was really gross, and I was really paranoid. So it's pretty doubtful that I actually did see him again. But you can never be too sure. For some context, my friend and I both are 22-year-old females. My friend Anna and I were really bored one weekend, and we had decided to go to a really popular beach to take some pictures and just really mess around. So we took pictures and had a really lovely day. Then on the way back, we were really starving, so we decided to stop at the McDonald's that was near the beach in town. This town is like really famous and nice, and all of the celebrities live there, and it's really beautiful. There's also a super famous restaurant right off the highway on the beach that's pretty known for celebrities and rich people going there. The McDonald's was directly across the street from the restaurant. Since so many famous people go to this restaurant and it's on a pretty busy road, most of them have drivers that take them, usually in really big black Escalades. The drivers would usually hang out in the parking lot of that McDonald's while their bosses ate across the street. Anna and I didn't really know this at the time. We just wanted a McFlurry. So we go to the McDonald's, and right when we get out of the car, she then starts acting really weird. She triple checks that the car doors are locked and then grabs her fancy camera to bring inside. I ask her what's up, and she says that there's a group of guys that are standing in front of the McDonald's just smoking and staring at us, and it was really giving her the creeps. Now, I'm a pretty chill and trusting person, so I didn't really think too much into it. It's a busy place in a super nice town. I'm not that worried. We go inside, and there's a few other people there around our age. We get our food, and then we sit at the table to eat. One of the drivers comes inside, and he sits a few booths down with his back to the wall, right where he can see us. My back is facing him, but Anna gets really creeped out and she wants to leave pretty much immediately. The guy isn't eating or really doing anything. He's just staring at us. Now again, this is a pretty crowded McDonald's in one of the nicest towns in Southern California, so I feel pretty safe. Living in South Central, you get pretty used to the odd creep. Still, Anna was really freaked out, so I decided to go, but I just had to use the bathroom first. It was one of those McDonald's where the counter and main dining room were in one big room, and then there was sort of a hallway off to the side of the counter with more seating, and the bathroom at the end way in the back. There was also a door that was going outside right next to the bathrooms. The bathroom only has 2 stalls. I just walked into the first stall, not really paying any attention to whether or not anyone else was in there. So I'm in there doing my thing when I then hear the door open, and I hear Anna call my name. At this point, I'm very confused since she was supposed to be watching our stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" She asks, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm just peeing, what's up?" I reply. She says okay and just stands there in the doorway. After about a second, I hear her leave, and I think that that's really weird. So I walk out of the bathroom and I see her waiting by the door with all of our stuff in her hands. I ask her what's going on and why she came in the bathroom. Then she looks at me with this really panicky look on her face. She says that we need to leave right now. At this point, I'm still not afraid, just really confused on what the hell's happening. We rush out to the car, and then she starts telling me what happened. As it turns out, when I walked into the bathroom, the creepy driver followed me in a little while after. I don't really remember hearing him come in, but maybe I did and had just assumed that someone had either been in the stall next to me and was leaving, or had just come in to check their makeup or something. I'll be honest, I really wasn't paying attention. I know for damn sure that I wasn't aware that anyone had entered the stall next to me, because when he came in, he didn't close the stall door. She was on her phone, so she didn't see him follow me either. Apparently a young guy noticed it and went up to my friend, then asking if we knew the driver. Very frantic, she told him we didn't, then ran to check on me. He was in the stall right next to me with the stall door open, not making a single sound. That's when she came in and didn't see him, so she called my name to make sure I was still alive, and that's when he rushed out of the stall right past her. She was in shock. She didn't know what to do other than gather our things and prepare to run out. When we went to her car, he was sitting in his big black car with tinted windows right next to us, still just staring away. We then sped off. When I got the whole story from my friend on what actually happened, we called the McDonald's to let them know what happened. They checked their cameras and they did see the guy follow me in. We also filed a police report, but I don't think anything else ever really came of it. Thank God nothing happened, but it was really scary. The guy was just sitting in his car staring at us when we left. Who really knows what he was planning on doing? When I was in 5th grade, I recall going to McDonald's with my 2 twin friends and their mother. We were all standing in line just waiting to order. I was leaning on the wall behind me and looking around. This is when the altercation occurred. There was an old man that was sitting at some sort of counter/table thing close to the registers. I don't really remember what he was doing, but I recall his pin dropping. He seemed to notice it, but as I stated before, he was really old, so he had a really hard time leaning down. Being the sweet little 10-year-old that I was, I did a small jog over to him, bent over, and picked up the pen. As I did so, he then smiled at me and then said,
"Good thing my zipper wasn't down, huh?"
Being so young, I totally didn't understand what the hell he meant, so I just awkwardly agreed and laughed. Afterwards, I went back with my friends, ordered the meal, and waited at the table with them. I finally asked my friend's mom what the old man meant by the zipper wasn't down, and all she really did was give me a really confused look. When further pressed, I told her about the encounter, and she got so pissed off that she tried to look for the man, but he wasn't there anymore. It wasn't until high school when I then went back to that very same McDonald's in which I remembered that experience and that disgusting old man. I would say let's not meet, but I think we should. Being in the army and growing as strong as I am now, if I saw him today, I'd probably definitely deck him in the face. When I was 15 years old, my youth group went on a mission trip to Oklahoma City to help with tornado relief. Basically, we spent about 5 days picking up branches and other trash from certain people's properties and filling up quite a few of those really giant dumpsters that have to be hauled off by really large trucks. Every day for lunch, we would all load up into our 2 vans and drive somewhere to eat. On, I want to say around the 3rd day, we went to this gas station/truck stop that had both a Wendy's and a Subway inside of it. My 3 friends and I, all girls by the way, decided we wanted Wendy's. We all ordered our food and chose a booth that fit the 4 of us. We were a group of about 30 teenagers, so every time we went out in public, at least one person would always ask us who we were and why we were there. We usually used this as a chance to try and tell them about our mission trip, our church, and maybe try and share the gospel with them. In the booth next to the one my friends and I were sitting in, there was this skinny middle-aged man. He looked to be in his middle to late 30s and he was sitting all alone with his laptop. He seemed to be on Skype with someone, and he had earbuds in. He was in a corner booth, so he could see us and we could see him, but we couldn't see what was on his laptop. When he noticed us, he ended his conversation on Skype and asked us who we were and why we were there. We told him all about our trip and our church, nothing that we haven't done before. Then we just went right back to eating our food. After a couple of minutes, he asked if one of us could help him figure out how to download a movie onto his laptop before leaving the free Wi-Fi. We all kind of just eyed each other, sort of questioning whether we should do it or not. Then I decided that I would just go over there, take a look, and try and help him real quick. Now, these 2 booths were sort of separated and near the bathroom, so all the adults and other kids were sort of blocked from our view by the trash can. So I walked over to his table and stood next to it, and then he angled his laptop so that I could see it. He had his browser open to just the home page and nothing else. I had asked him what movie it was that he wanted to download, and then he told me. I think I just typed into Google whatever the movie title was and free download. Something dumb like that. I was sort of awkwardly leaning down over the table to type. He seemed sort of annoyed or amused that I searched that, as if he knew a better way. He didn't really say anything, probably because he's the one asking for help here. I wasn't really having any luck and I was getting tired of standing up, so he tried to convince me to sit down next to him. I really don't know what came over me, but I decided just for a second I was going to sit down. I thought that I would be done really fast. After sitting down, he seems to not even care about the movie anymore, and he starts trying to show me some of the other things on his laptop, and then he tells me that he was Skyping with his girlfriend. But by that point, I realized that I'd really made a mistake. I'm eyeing my friends now who've been watching this entire interaction, and they seem really worried about me. So I give them a look and then mouth the words, "Please get me out of here." One of my really close friends then gets up and comes over to the table. She says that my youth leader really wants to talk to me. I quickly get up and just make my way to the bathroom as fast as I can. I don't know why, but I just started crying. I felt so dumb for getting myself into this really weird situation with this weird stranger. My best friend calms me down though and tells me to go to the van because we're about to leave anyway. So I go all the way through the subway and gas station portion of the place and then go out the door. Apparently while I was waiting in the van, this guy at some point had got up, gathered his things, then asked one of the youth leaders for my name and number. I'm pretty sure that he thought that she was my age because she looks really young, but she kinda just looked at him really confused and then told him she wasn't going to give him that information. He left, and I watched from the van as he then got into a car with another guy. That's when I realized that the second man in the car was probably waiting for me. I don't know what they had planned or if I'm really just being paranoid, but I'm really glad I never found out.